That morning, no one expected a single act of defiance to change military history. What began as routine training became a moment every soldier on base would remember, and one that would test the difference between following orders and doing what's right. The sun hung low over Coronado Naval Base, casting long shadows across the obstacle course where SEAL Team 3 ran their pre-dawn drills. The air carried the sharp tang of salt from the Pacific mixed with the faint diesel hum of idling Humvees on the perimeter road. Petty Officer First Class Marcus Hale moved with the precision of a man who had logged thousands of miles in sand and surf, his boots sinking into the damp sand as he led his unit through the confidence course. At his side, trotting in perfect sync, was Rex, a Belgian Malinois with a coat the color of burnished copper and eyes that missed nothing. Rex's harness gleamed under the floodlights, the leash a mere formality. Marcus and his K9 partner operated as one, bound by years of shared ops in dusty Afghan villages and moonless nights off Somalia. "Double time, stay low," Marcus barked, his voice cutting through the rhythmic thud of boots and labored breaths. The team vaulted over logs, crawled under barbed wire, their faces smeared with mud to simulate night insertions. Marcus, at 34, was the handler everyone deferred to without question. His file read like a chronicle of quiet excellence: 3 deployments, a Silver Star for pulling his squad from an IED ambush, and an unblemished record in K9 integration. Rex had been his shadow since puppyhood, trained at Lackland to detect explosives, narcotics, and now, in experimental programs, even human sense in search and rescue scenarios. Their bond was the envy of the base: silent commands, a tilt of the head, and Rex would pivot, nose to the wind, as if reading Marcus's thoughts. The drill wrapped at 600 sharp, the team forming up for debrief in the shadow of the chow hall. Lieutenant Commander Elena Vasquez, the team's XO, strode forward, her uniform crisp against the morning chill. "Solid work, Hale." Rex pulled ahead on the scent trail. "Remind me why we don't deploy him solo." Her tone was light, but her eyes appraised Marcus with the weight of command. Vasquez had risen through the ranks on merit alone, overseeing K9 units that had saved countless lives in counter-narcotics raids along the border. Marcus saluted, fist to chest. "Ma'am, Rex doesn't work without backup. We're a team." Rex sat at heel, ears pricked, sensing the shift in energy. The other handlers nodded. In their world, loyalty wasn't abstract. It was etched in every patrol, every extraction. Marcus scratched Rex's flank absently, feeling the dog's steady warmth. Off duty, Marcus kept things simple: a quick stop at the base exchange for supplies, then home to his modest apartment in San Diego. No family waiting, just Rex and the routine that kept the ghosts of past missions at bay. By 800, Marcus was off base, Rex riding shotgun in the weathered Ford F-150. Head out the window as they merged onto Highway 5. The radio crackled with morning traffic updates, but Marcus tuned it out, focused on the weekend ahead, a rare stretch of leave before the next rotation to the Gulf. The gas station loomed at the edge of town, a nondescript shell with pumps baking under the climbing sun. He pulled in for fuel, the nozzle clicking rhythmically as Rex paced the truck bed. Change short but alert. It happened in seconds, the kind of ordinary moment that fractures without warning. A minivan idled at the next pump, a harried mother stepping out to pay inside, her toddler strapped in the back seat, but somehow, later reports would say the child lock failed, the door popped open. The little boy, no more than 2, with tousled blonde hair and a sippy cup clutched in his fist, toddled out onto the blacktop. Horns blared faintly from the highway, but the station was quiet, save for the pump's steady beep. The mother emerged from the store just as the child vanished around the corner of the building toward the scrubby field beyond, a tangle of dry grass and chain-link fence bordering an industrial lot. Panic rippled through the station like a shockwave. The mother screamed, dropping her coffee as she bolted after him. Bystanders froze, then scattered. A trucker on his phone, two teens pumping gas. Marcus finished fueling, senses sharpening at the commotion. Rex whined low in his throat, paws scraping the truck bed. "Easy, boy," Marcus murmured, unhooking the chain. But Rex was already straining, nose twitching toward the open air. By the time Marcus rounded the corner, local PD had arrived, two cruisers with lights flashing, officers cordoning off the area. The mother was hysterical, pointing to the field where footprints trailed into the weeds. "He was right here! My baby!" Detectives swarmed, one barking into a radio. "We need K9 units now! Child abduction possible." Witness saw a van peeling out. Marcus stood at the edge, Rex pulling at the leash. The field stretched into a wasteland of abandoned lots and derelict warehouses, the kind of place where scents layered like forgotten secrets. The lead detective, a grizzled sergeant named Ruiz, eyed Marcus's plates. Military issue. "You a handler? We could use that dog." Marcus hesitated, glancing at his watch. Leave or not, protocol dictated reporting back to base for off-duty assistance, but Rex's hackles were up, his body rigid with focus. The mother met Marcus's eyes, her face streaked with tears. "Please," she whispered, "he's only 2. In the SEAL ethos, duty extended beyond the wire, compassion in the chain of command, or so the manuals preached. Marcus nodded to Ruiz. "Rex is certified for this, but I need clearance." He pulled out his phone, dialing Vasquez's direct line. The XO answered on the second ring, her voice steady. "Hale, what's the sitrep?" "Ma'am, civilian SAR at a gas station off base. Toddler missing, possible abduction. Rex is locked on." Silence stretched. Then Vasquez's approval. "Assist, but document everything. Base Council will want a report." With the nod, Marcus unclipped Rex's leash. The dog surged forward, nose to the ground, weaving through the grass with mechanical precision. The officers parted, watches synchronized. Marcus followed, heart steady but pulse quickening, the weight of eyes on him, the unspoken question. What if the trail went cold? Rex paused at a chain-link gap, pouring the dirt where tire tracks scarred the earth. A faint scent lingered, human and urgent, carried on the desert breeze. No machines whirred here, no drones overhead yet, just a dog and his handler, piercing the ordinary veil. The team fanned out, radios buzzing with coordinates. Marcus knelt beside Rex, hand on the dog's flank. "Find him, partner," he said softly. In that moment, the base's rigid world blurred into something raw, a test not of orders, but of the trust that bound them all. The desert scrub clawed at Marcus's boots as he tracked Rex's lead, the dog's nose inches from the cracked earth, pulling taut against the invisible thread of scent. The air hung heavy with the metallic bite of sun-baked chain link and the faint rot of discarded tires piled against the warehouse fence. Officer Ruiz flanked him, radio clipped to his shoulder, crackling with updates from the perimeter teams. "Grid 2 clear, no visual on the child." The mother's sobs echoed distantly from the gas station, a raw undercurrent to the professional rhythm of the search. Rex moved methodically, his flanks heaving in controlled bursts, pausing to circle a cluster of oil stains where the tire tracks veered toward an overgrown access road. Marcus knelt, gloved hand, sifting the dirt. Fresh impressions, shallow but deliberate, matching the width of a panel van. "Good boy," he murmured. The praise a quiet anchor in the rising tension. Rex's training kicked in seamlessly, Lackland protocols drilled into muscle memory, layering human odor over environmental noise. No false alerts here. The dog's focus was laser-sharp, ears pinned back against the wind that whispered through the weeds. Ruiz wiped sweat from his brow, his civilian badge a stark contrast to Marcus's subdued BDUs. "Your dog's something else. We've got our own unit en route, but traffic's a mess. How long you figure before he tires?" The question carried no doubt, only the pragmatic edge of a man who'd seen too many trails go cold under fluorescent lights and coffee-fueled stakeouts. Marcus straightened, scanning the horizon where derelict buildings hulked like forgotten sentinels. "Rex doesn't tire on a live scent, but we need to widen the pattern, winds shifting southwest." He adjusted his cap, the brim casting a shadow over eyes that had scanned worse terrains, jagged Afghan ridges where a single whiff could mean life or ambush. This was stateside, off the books, yet the chain of command loomed. Vasquez's clearance was provisional, tied to a post-mission debrief that could snag his next deployment if things soured. They pressed on, the team coalescing around them. 2 more PD officers with shotguns slung low, a forensic tech uncoiling spools of evidence tape. Rex quartered the ground in overlapping sweeps, his paws kicking up puffs of dust that danced in the midday glare. At the edge of the lot, he stiffened, hackles rising as he nosed a discarded juice box, bright blue, the kind that matched the mother's frantic description. "Alert!" Marcus called, voice level but firm. The group halted, breaths held. Rex pawed insistently, whining low, the sound cutting through the static hum of radios. Ruiz keyed his mic. "Sent hit at coordinates 32, 74 north, 117, 12 west. Possible drop item." The response crackled back. "Command center confirming drone deployment, ETA 10 mics." Marcus clipped a sample bag over the box, sealing it with deliberate care, protocol from Joint Ops, where evidence chains broke careers as surely as bullets. But as he rose, a shadow flickered at the warehouse's loading dock, a side door ajar, rusted hinges glinting. Rex lunged toward it, leash straining, his body language screaming acquisition. "Hold!" Ruiz ordered, hand up. The officers drew weapons, forming a wedge. Marcus's pulse steadied. This was the pivot, where instinct met restraint. "Rex, sit!" The dog complied instantly, trembling with pent-up drive, eyes locked on the door. Inside, the warehouse loomed dark and cavernous, stacked pallets of forgotten auto parts, the air thick with oil and mildew. No immediate signs of struggle, but the scent trail thickened here, human fear laced with the acrid tang of unwashed fabric. They cleared the entry in formation, flashlights slicing the gloom. Marcus kept Rex close, the dog's nose working overtime, guiding them past shadowed corners where rats skittered. "Clear left," one officer whispered. Ruiz nodded to Marcus. "Let him work." Unleashed again, Rex darted to a far wall, pawing at a pile of tarps. Marcus pulled them back, revealing a child's sandal. Tiny Velcro straps caked in dirt, the sippy cup tumbled nearby. The mother's voice broke over the radio relay. "That's his! Oh God, that's Ethan's!" Elation surged, tempered by the void. No boy, no abductor, just echoes of passage. Scuff marks leading to a rear exit, pried open with fresh tool strikes. Rex nosed the threshold, then bolted outside, toward a chain of rail spurs overgrown with tumbleweed. The trail was fracturing, scents diluting in the heat, but Rex persisted, weaving through rusted tracks where freight cars squatted idle. Marcus followed, sweat tracing lines down his neck, the weight of the mother's plea pressing like an unspoken order. At the rail yard's edge, Ruiz's phone buzzed, a breakthrough from base traffic cams. A white van, plates obscured, heading east on I-8 toward the mountains. "We got a bead. Your dog's buying us time." But as they regrouped, a new wrinkle emerged. Vasquez's voice cut through Marcus's earpiece, patched via Ruiz's command. "Hail! Stand down! Base Jags on the line. Civilian assist can't override your leave status without formal attachment. Pull back. Let local K9 take lead." Marcus froze, hand on Rex's collar. The dog sensed the hesitation, whining softly, nose still questing. Duty clashed here, raw and immediate. Protocol demanded withdrawal, preserving the military's firewall from civilian entanglements. Yet the trail burned hot under Rex's paws, the child's life a fragile thread in the balance. Officers watched, expectant. Ruiz raised an eyebrow. "Problem. Chain of command," Marcus replied, voice even. He relayed Vasquez's order, but his grip tightened on the leash. In SEAL training, they'd hammered the ethos, adapt, overcome. But this wasn't a sim. It was a toddler's footprint in the dust, a mother's trust handed over in desperation. Rex met his gaze, steady and unyielding, the bond a silent vote against retreat. Ruiz exhaled. "We need you. Kid's clock is ticking." The dilemma hung, institutional lines blurring in the rail yard's relentless sun. Marcus weighed it, the report that could ground him versus the quiet certainty that Rex's nose pierced truths no camera caught. "One more grid," he decided, clipping the leash short. "Then we reassess." Vasquez's silence on the line spoke volumes. The test had begun, loyalty pulling against the rigid frame of orders. Rex surged forward again, the team trailing, radios alive with coordinates. The warehouse faded behind, but the scent persisted, a fragile lifeline in the vast, indifferent sprawl. Marcus's boots echoed the dog's pace, each step a measured defiance. The morning's routine drills now a distant memory against this unfolding reckoning. The rail yard stretched like a rusted skeleton under the relentless California sun. Freight cars looming silent and scarred from years of neglect, dust devils swirled in lazy eddies, carrying the sharp scent of creosote ties and sun-bleached metal. Rex courted the ground with unerring focus, his paws silent on the gravel, nose sifting layers of stale oil and faint exhaust from the van's passage. Marcus kept pace, leash loose in his gloved hand. Every sense attuned to the dog's subtle cues, a twitch of the ear, a stiffening of the shoulders. The team's radios hummed with low urgency, perimeter secured, drone footage inbound, but no visual on the child. Ruiz glanced sidelong at Marcus, his face etched with the fatigue of endless shifts. "Your call holds for now, but Jag's breathing down our necks. One wrong move, and this becomes a cluster." The words landed heavy, a reminder of the invisible lines Marcus was towing. Base protocol was ironclad. Off-duty personnel assisted only under formal orders, lest civilian cases bleed into military ops, inviting lawsuits or worse, scrutiny from higher brass who viewed K-9 deployments as assets, not freelance heroes. Vasquez's order echoed in Marcus's earpiece, her tone clipped. "Hale, confirm pullback, that's an order." Marcus keyed his mic, voice steady as he relayed the grid coordinates to the incoming local unit. "Understood, ma'am. One grid complete, no hits." But he didn't stop. Rex pulled left, toward a chain of boxcars where shadows pooled deep, the scent trail coiling tighter, laced with the unmistakable tang of fear sweat and baby powder. The dog's whine built low in his throat, a vibration Marcus felt through the leash. In training evals, they'd clocked Rex at 98% accuracy on human trails over urban debris. Here, amid the industrial sprawl, that edge felt like the only certainty. The team advanced in loose formation, officers sweeping flanks with drawn Glocks, beams from tactical lights cutting the dim undercarriages. Marcus's BDUs chafed against sweat-damp skin, the weight of his sidearm a familiar anchor at his hip. He'd faced ambushes in Helmand, where hesitation meant body bags. But this was different. Domestic, exposed, with cameras from news vans already probing the gas station perimeter. One viral clip of a SEAL going rogue could ripple up the chain, tarnishing the unit's rep for precision over impulse. Rex alerted at the third car, pouring a gap where the door hung ajar, hinges groaning in the breeze. Marcus signaled halt, dropping to one knee. "Speak!" he commanded softly, and Rex barked once, sharp and insistent, nose buried in the darkness. The officers converged, Ruiz calling for backup as they pried the door wider. Inside, the air hung stale, thick with dust motes dancing in flashlight beams. No child, but evidence scattered like breadcrumbs. A crumpled blanket patterned with cartoon trucks and a single sock, tiny and soiled, wedged in the floor grating. Forensic techs moved in, gloved hands bagging items with clinical efficiency, their chatter a murmur of chain-of-custody protocols. "Trails live," Marcus reported to Ruiz, clipping a fresh sample for Rex. The dog nosed the blanket, committing the layered scents, child, adult male, synthetic fabric from the van, to memory. But Vasquez's voice cut through again, sharper now. "Hail, extract immediately. Local K9's 10 out. This isn't your op." The line hissed with static, underscoring the distance between base routine and this chaotic fringe. Marcus's jaw tightened. Obedience had forged him. From Boudes hell weeks to quiet extractions in the Hindu Kush, yet pulling back now meant abandoning the thread Rex had woven through the wasteland, a thread that could unravel a life. Ruiz caught the exchange, lowering his weapon slightly. "Tell me straight, you in or out? Kid's been gone 2 hours. Stats say the window's closing." The mother's face flashed in Marcus's mind. Her plea a raw counterpoint to the manuals. SEAL creed emphasized adaptability, but the institution demanded boundaries. Protect the mission, protect the team, defy here. And it was a mark on his record. Insubordination, potential grounding from rotations, whispers in the ready room about a handler who blurred lines. Rex shifted, pressing against Marcus's leg, his warmth a steady pulse amid the tension. The bond wasn't sentiment, it was operational core, forged in Lackland's kennels, where handlers learned to read a dog's every breath. "We're in," Marcus said finally, voice low but resolute. He unclipped the leash fully, trusting Rex's drive over the radio's pull. "But keep it tight, no leaks to press." The team nodded. A tacit alliance forming in the rail yard's hush. They pushed deeper, Rex leading toward the yard's eastern fence, where a service road snaked into the foothills. The local K9 van arrived as they crested the rise, a German shepherd leaping out, handler in tow. Introductions were brisk, names exchanged, leashes swapped for scent articles from the warehouse. But Rex had the jump, his trail unbroken, weaving through scrub oak where the van's tracks faded into dirt. The rival handler, a veteran named Torres, eyed Rex appraisingly. "Military grade? Let him run parallel. We'll bracket." Cooperation eased the friction, but Marcus felt the eyes. Ruiz's pragmatic nod, the officer's quiet respect, building toward something public, a moment where choice eclipsed rank. As the sun dipped toward the peaks, casting long shadows over the search grid, a faint cry echoed from the brush ahead. Not wind, but human, small and muffled. Rex bolted, barking furiously, the team surging behind. Marcus's heart hammered, protocol fracturing under the raw pull of the moment. Vasquez's final warning buzzed unanswered in his earpiece. The defiance was set, rippling outward like a stone in still water. In the distance, sirens wailed, drawing the perimeter tighter, the reckoning no longer private, but witnessed under the open sky. Comment where you're watching from. I want to know how far stories of courage and integrity can reach. The cry pierced the scrub like a shard of glass, faint but unmistakable. A child's wail, choked and desperate. Carried on the hot updrafts from the foothills, Rex exploded forward, his barks echoing off the rusted rail cars, body low and arrow straight as he crashed through the underbrush. Marcus sprinted after him, boots pounding the dry earth, the leash forgotten in the surge of instinct. Behind, the team fanned out, Ruiz shouting coordinates into his radio, officers drawing weapons in a tight wedge, their flashlights stabbing the lengthening shadows. The local K9 handler, Torres, matched pace with his shepherd, but Rex had the lead, his nose locked on the scent cone that twisted through the chaparral. "Contact ahead. Possible visual," Marcus called, voice cutting through the crackle of undergrowth. His breath came steady, trained for this rhythm, pursuit without panic, assessment in motion. The terrain roughened, gravel giving way to loose scree that skittered underfoot, the air thick with the resinous bite of sagebrush and the distant tang of eucalyptus from the mountain slopes. Vasquez's unanswered warning lingered in his earpiece like static snow, a reminder of the line he'd crossed. But retreat now would fracture everything, the trust in Rex, the fragile hope threading through the mother's relayed pleas over the command net. They crested a shallow rise, the service road below revealing a battered white van slewed against a boulder, its rear doors yawning open like a wound. Dust still hung in the air from a hasty stop, tire tracks gouging the dirt in erratic arcs. Rex veered straight for it, paws churning, his alerts a staccato rhythm that set the team's pulses racing. The cry sharpened, emanating from the van's shadowed interior. Ethan, the toddler, wedged behind the front seat, face streaked with tears, his small fists pounding the upholstery. No abductor in sight. The driver had fled on foot, vanishing into the thickening dusk toward a dry creek bed. Ruiz hit the brakes on his advance, waving the officers to secure the perimeter. "Kids secure! Medics inbound!" His voice boomed over the radio, the relief raw but professional. Torres's shepherd circled the van, confirming no secondary threats, while Marcus approached slow, hands visible, murmuring to Rex to stand down. The dog obeyed, sitting rigid at the vehicle's flank, eyes fixed on the child as if guarding a prize. Ethan blinked up at them, sippy cup clutched like a talisman, his whimpers fading to hiccuping breaths. Marcus leaned in, assessing. No visible injuries, just dehydration and shock, the kind that protocol demanded immediate extraction. "Easy there, little man," Marcus said softly, unclipping his canteen to offer a sip through the door. The boy latched on, tiny hands trembling, the moment suspended in the van's stale heat, laced with the sour edge of spilled milk and unwashed clothes. Paramedics arrived in a blur of sirens, their ambulance grinding up the road, lights painting the scrub in pulsing blue. They swaddled Ethan in a blanket, vitals beeping steady as they loaded him onto the gurney. The mother, notified via Ruiz's direct line, was en route, her voice breaking over the speakers. "Is he okay? Tell me he's okay." As the medics worked, the scene shifted. News helicopters thumped overhead, rotors chopping the air, spotlights sweeping the recovery site. Ground crews from local stations had breached the outer cordon, cameras rolling despite PD tape. Marcus shielded his eyes, the glare catching the SEAL insignia on his sleeve, a detail no longer subtle. Ruiz pulled him aside, face grim under the floodlights. "Press is here. Your involvement's going viral. Had a tip line open since the gas station." The words landed like a briefing gone south. Off-duty assist had ballooned into public spectacle, the chain of command's firewall crumbling under the weight of witnesses. Back at base, Vasquez's call came through patched to Ruiz's unit. "Hale, report to the ready room now. JAG's convening an inquiry, unauthorized extension of duties." Her tone was steel wrapped in procedure, the kind that preceded formal write-ups. Marcus acknowledged, clipping Rex's leash as the dog leaned against his leg, spent but vigilant. The extraction wrapped efficiently. Van towed for forensics. Footprints cast in the creek bed, the abductor's trail handed to a full SWAT rotation. Ethan was stabilized, en route to the hospital with an escort, his recovery a quiet victory amid the chaos. But as Marcus loaded Rex into the F-150, the perimeter buzzed with reporters, mics thrust forward, questions sharp. "Petty Officer Hale, is it true a military K-9 found the child when locals couldn't? Why ignore orders to stand down?" Flashes popped, capturing Rex's profile against the truck's tailgate. Marcus's salute to Ruiz crisp but evasive. He drove off without comment, the highway lights blurring into streaks, radio tuned to silence. Rex curled in the passenger seat, head on Marcus's thigh, the bond a steady anchor as the weight settled. Defiance documented, reputations in flux. The base gates loomed under sodium lamps, MPs waving him through with nods that carried unspoken questions. In the kennels, Marcus hosed down Rex, the water sheeting off the dog's coat in rivulets, carrying away the day's grit. The handler's quarters were quiet. Fluorescent hum, the only sound as he logged the op in his notebook. Timestamps, scent hits, the cry's coordinates. Loyalty had prevailed, but at cost. Whispers would spread through the chow hall by morning, brass reviewing footage, the institution's machinery grinding toward accountability. Vasquez met him at debrief, her office sparse, desk map of deployment zones, a single commendation frame on the wall. You saved that kid, Hale, but protocol exists for a reason. Civilian ops invite entanglement, lawsuits, media spin that paints us as vigilantes. She slid a folder across, preliminary JAG notes, insubordination flagged, but tempered by the outcome. Marcus stood at attention, eyes forward. Ma'am, Rex detected what the grid missed. I couldn't leave the trail cold. She studied him, the silence stretching like a post-mission eval. Your call's noted, but this ripples. Expect scrutiny. The team's watching. Outside, the Pacific wind sighed through the palms, carrying salt and the faint echo of Ethan's cry. Marcus scratched Rex's ears, the dog's sigh a mirror to his own. The act of defiance had pierced the veil, transforming a routine leave into a fulcrum. Duty-tested, conscience affirmed, the system's gears turning toward an inevitable reckoning. In the distance, base lights flickered like stars, the hierarchy unbroken but forever marked. The fluorescent lights of the base briefing room buzzed like distant rotors, casting a sterile glow over the polished oak table where JAG officers sat in rigid formation. Marcus stood at parade rest, uniform pressed to creases that mirrored the tension in his shoulders. Rex settled at his feet in the corner, harness secured to a ring bolted into the floor. The air carried the faint scent of printer ink and stale coffee from the carafes lining the sideboard, a counterpoint to the salt-tanged breeze seeping through the vented windows overlooking the Coronado parade grounds. Commander Harlan Graves, lead investigator, adjusted his glasses, the frames catching the light as he flipped through a stack of printouts, transcripts from Ruiz's PD logs, time-stamped drone footage, and grainy stills from the news chopper. Petty Officer Hale, walk us through the decision point at the rail yard. Lieutenant Commander Vasquez's order to stand down was explicit, yet you extended the search. Explain. Marcus's voice remained even, honed by countless after-action reviews. Sir, the scent trail was active. Rex's alerts confirmed continuity from the warehouse to the van. Withdrawing would have risked losing the lead, and the child's vitals were unconfirmed. He met Graves's gaze without flinching, the room's silence amplifying the tick of the wall clock. Vasquez sat to the side, her expression neutral, notepad open but pen idle, a silent witness to the machinery of accountability. Graves nodded curtly, sliding a tablet across the table. The screen played a looped clip. Marcus unclipping Rex's leash, the dog surging into the scrub, overlaid with audio from the body cams. Ruiz's call for perimeter, the child's muffled cry. This footage went public within hours. Local news is running, SEAL defies orders to save Toddler. The mother's interview, grateful, effusive about your canine's role, has 500,000 views. How does this align with operational security? The question hung, laced with the institutional weight of precedents. Handlers grounded for lesser infractions, deployments scrubbed over media leaks. Marcus shifted his weight imperceptibly, feeling Rex's steady breathing at his boot. Sir, my focus was the recovery. Media presence was unforeseen. I adhered to PD coordination until extraction. Truth, unadorned, but the undercurrent was clear. The act had pierced the firewall, turning a private assist into a spectacle that brass couldn't ignore. Vasquez interjected, her tone measured. Commander, Hale's actions yielded results. The child was recovered unharmed, abductor apprehended via the trail he established. Local PD commended the assist in their report. She tapped the folder where Ruiz's endorsement glowed in black ink. Exemplary cooperation. No procedural breaches on civilian side. But Graves's eyes narrowed. JAG's mandate was preservation of the chain, not praise for outcomes. Commendations noted, XO. But protocol safeguards the unit. Off-duty personnel don't freelance, especially not in view of civilians and press. This sets a precedent. Handlers overriding commands for feel-good saves. He leaned forward, the chair creaking under his frame. Your record's clean, Hale, Silver Star, flawless evals, but insubordination ripples. We're recommending a formal reprimand. 30-day stand-down from rotations. Thoughts? Marcus's pulse remained steady, the room's air conditioning whispering cool against his neck. In Bud S, they drilled resilience, embrace the suck, own the error. But this wasn't failure. It was the cost of conscience, etched in the quiet loyalty of Rex's gaze. Sir, I stand by the decision. Duty includes protecting lives when the opportunity presents. Rex's capabilities extended the search where standard grids fell short. Graves exhaled, closing the tablet with a soft click. Noted. Tribunal convenes next week. Full board, including base counsel and a K9 liaison from Norfolk. Prepare your statement. The meeting adjourned with salutes crisp as starched collars, officers filing out to the corridor where aides waited with clipboards. Vasquez lingered, her hand on the door. Solid presentation, Hale, but keep it tight. No off-record chats. The team's rallying, but scrutiny's high. Outside, the parade ground stretched under a midday haze, drill instructors barking cadence to a platoon of trainees, double timing in formation. Marcus led Rex to the kennels, the gravel crunching under boots, the dog's tags jingling softly. Handlers nodded as he passed, subtle gestures of solidarity, a fist bump from Petty Officer Lang, whose own Malinois had pulled sentry in the same Afghan tour. Heard about the kid. Rex earned that one. No elaboration. Words were spare in their world, respect shown in silence, but the ripple spread beyond the wire. By evening, Marcus's inbox pinged with alerts, a viral thread on military forums dissecting the clip, veterans weighing in on duty versus protocol. Handler did what we all would, one posted. Brass tying hands again, another griped. The base exchange buzzed with sidelong glances during his supply run. Civilians, dependents, even a cluster of officers at the counter murmuring about the gas station save. Rex trotted at heel, oblivious to the undercurrents, his coat still carrying faint traces of the scrub's sage. Vasquez summoned him to her office at 1900, the desk lamp pooling light over deployment charts and a steaming mug of tea. Media's escalating. National outlet wants an interview, framed as K9 heroism, but they're fishing for dirt on the stand-down. She steepled her fingers, the gold wedding band glinting. JAG's advising no comment, but the CO's open to a controlled statement. Your call could shape the narrative. Marcus stood, cap under arm. Ma'am, if it highlights Rex's program without undermining chain of command, I'm in. She nodded, the approval a quiet bridge over the divide. Outside, the sun dipped toward the Pacific, painting the barracks in amber, the hum of generators underscoring the base's unyielding rhythm. Rex pressed against his leg as they walked the perimeter path, the ocean's murmur a distant roar. The Defiance had surfaced, public now, witnesses multiplying like echoes in a canyon. In the handler's bay that night, Marcus reviewed the op logs by flashlight, Rex curled on his mat, breaths even in sleep. The tribunal loomed, a formal arena where words would forge legacy or fracture it. Whispers from the chow hall suggested support building, petitions circulating among the teams, endorsements from retired handlers who'd faced similar fires. The institution stirred, not in outrage, but in quiet reassessment, the value of a dog's nose against the rigidity of rules. Dawn broke with reveille, bugle notes piercing the fog rolling off the bay. Marcus geared up for light duty, kennel maintenance, no fieldwork pending review. As he hosed down the runs, water sheeting clean over concrete, a young trainee approached, eyes wide. "Petty officer, sir, is it true your dog found the kid when everyone else couldn't?" Marcus paused, nozzle dripping. Team effort. Rex just followed the scent. The boy saluted, retreating with a nod that carried the spark of inspiration. By midday, the CO's office called, statement approved, brief and factual, emphasizing joint ops without admitting fault. Reporters gathered at the gate, but MPs held the line, the barrier a symbol of the world's divide. Marcus scratched Rex's ears, the dog's sigh a balm against the gathering storm. The reckoning unfolded not in isolation, but under scrutiny's glare. Careers balanced, the moral pivot exposed, the chain of command tested in the light of day. In the distance, helicopters thrummed on approach, the base's pulse unbroken, yet subtly altered by one handler's stand. The tribunal chamber in the base's administrative wing felt like a pressure cooker under the midday sun. Its walls paneled in dark teak that absorbed the light filtering through high, narrow windows. The air conditioner hummed steadily, circulating the faint scent of polished brass and oiled leather from the officers' chairs arranged in a semicircle. Marcus entered at precisely 0900, Rex at heel, the dog's nails clicking softly on the linoleum before settling into the designated handler's alcove. Salutes rippled through the room. Commander Graves at the center, flanked by two captains from JAG and a liaison from the K9 Training Command at Norfolk, their uniforms a sea of khaki and ribbons earned in forgotten corners of the world. "Petty Officer Hale, take the stand," Graves directed, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling like a range command. Marcus moved forward, posture unyielding, placing his cover on the table beside a stack of exhibits. Redacted PD reports, scent log printouts, and a thumb drive of the recovery footage. Rex lay still, ears attuned to the room's undercurrents, the shuffle of papers, the subtle creak of chairs as witnesses filed in. Vasquez sat in the observer row, her notebook a shield of neutrality, while Ruiz, the detective, waited his turn as a civilian affiliate, his badge pinned to a borrowed blazer. Graves opened with procedure, the gavel's tap, a punctuation mark. This inquiry examines the unauthorized extension of military assets in a civilian search and rescue operation on July 12th. Evidence suggests insubordination, but outcomes merit consideration. Hale, state your intent from the rail yard decision point. Marcus's response was measured, words drawn from the creed etched into every SEAL's core. "Sir, the primary directive is to protect. Rex's certification includes human scent detection for SAR per NavSpec WARCOM guidelines. With local units delayed and the trail viable, continuation aligned with adaptive response training." He referenced the manual without flourish, his hands flat on the table, the cool wood grounding him amid the scrutiny. The captains exchanged glances, one jotted notes, the pen's scratch, a metronome to the tension. Ruiz testified next, sworn in with a hand on the Bible, his voice gravelly from chain-smoking stakeouts. Hale's assist was pivotal. Our K9 arrived post-recovery. Without his track, the van's location goes dark. Kid was dehydrated but stable. Docs confirmed no long-term harm. He laid out the timeline: gas station alert at E0815, warehouse hit at E0930, van recovery at 11:30. Exhibits projected on the screen, Rex's paw prints in the dust, the child's sandal bagged in evidence, drew nods from the K9 liaison, a wiry major with a handler's calluses visible on his palms. But the counter-arguments landed heavier. A JAG prosecutor, Lieutenant Ellis, rose, her folder thick with precedents. Protocol 7-2 explicitly limits off-duty engagement to prevent entanglement. Hale's actions exposed the unit to media, national coverage framing SEALs as rogue operators. This erodes operational security. She cued the clip, news anchor's voiceover praising the defiant dog that out-sniffed the system, overlaid with Marcus's silhouette against the sunset scrub. The room shifted. Graves's jaw tightened, the institutional imperative clear: preserve the chain or risk the whole edifice cracking. Vasquez countered during cross, her testimony a bridge of command perspective. Hale reported real time. My initial clearance was verbal. The outcome, child safe. Abductor in custody via the trail. Demonstrates K9 value in hybrid scenarios. Recommend formalizing off-base protocols rather than reprimand. Her words hung, a subtle pivot toward reform, eyes meeting Marcus's in a flicker of alliance. The liaison leaned in, murmuring about Norfolk's pilot programs, integrating military handlers with civilian SAR for border ops, where scents crossed jurisdictions like ghosts. Witnesses from the base filtered through, handlers like Lang, who spoke to Rex's eval scores. 98% on urban trails, sir. Machines glitch, dogs adapt. Trainees offered clipped accounts of the buzz in the barracks, how the story circulated like contraband cigs, inspiring quiet debates over chow. When does duty bend the rules? No drama, just the raw edge of morale. Loyalty to the team clashing with Brass's firewall. Marcus listened from the stand, Rex's presence a steady warmth at his side, the dog's occasional ear twitch syncing with the room's pulse. Ellis pressed Marcus on the defiance. You ignored a direct order from Exo Vasquez. Explain the rationale beyond results. He met her gaze, voice level. Sir, in the moment, the scent was the order. Rex doesn't clock out, neither do I when lives hang. The response elicited a murmur, not approval, but recognition, the kind forged in shared deployments where split seconds defined legacies. Graves adjourned for deliberation at 1400, the gavel's echo lingering as officers recessed to chambers, coffee cups clinking in the antechamber. Marcus waited in the corridor, Rex's head on his knee, the linoleum cool against his boots. Vasquez approached, her stride purposeful. They're split. Outcomes versus optics. Your statement landed, the K9 angles gaining traction. She glanced at the windows, where the parade grounds baked under the sun, platoons drilling in perfect cadence. Whispers from the admin pool hinted at higher review. The CO consulting with SOCOM on expanding handler protocols. The Toddler's recovery, a case study in untapped assets. By 1600, the reconvene brought Graves's verdict. No full reprimand, but a formal letter of counseling. 30 days restricted duty, mandatory protocol seminar. Actions commended for result, but boundaries reinforced. Recommend unit-wide training on civilian interfaces. The words carried weight, a concession to the ripple. Petitions from the teams forwarded, media narrative steered toward coordinated heroism in the approved statement. Ellis noted the shift, her closing brief alluding to policy drafts, K9 liaisons for joint ops, blurring lines under controlled terms. As the tribunal dissolved, salutes exchanged like handoffs in a relay. Marcus clipped Rex's leash, the dog's tail a subtle wag against the tension's release. The base stirred with the news, relayed through secure channels. Chow Hall talk turning to reform. Handlers sketching evals for hybrid drills. Vasquez walked him out, the Pacific wind gusting salt through the gates. You sparked it, Hale. The system's learning, slow but sure. Marcus nodded, the weight lifting incrementally, Rex's stride syncing with his own. In the kennels that evening, as he logged the day's transcripts, the radio crackled with a follow-up. Ethan's mother, discharged from the hospital, sending thanks via Ruiz. A drawing from the boy, crayons scrawling a dog and soldier under a blue sky. Marcus pinned it to the board, the gesture a quiet emblem of consequence. The defiance had weathered scrutiny, emerging not as fracture but catalyst, loyalty validated, the chain of command stretching to encompass the unseen bonds that held it true. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the obstacle course, where tomorrow's drills would carry the echo of one handler's stand. If this story already has your respect, hit the like button. It helps the story of Marcus Hale reach those who still believe in honor. Weeks turned into months, with the steady cadence of base life, the tribunal's shadow fading into the rhythm of rotations and reviews. Marcus returned to light duty, his restricted status a quiet tether, kennel oversight, training evals for new handlers. No field ops until the counseling letter cleared his file. Rex thrived under the routine, his coat gleaming from daily runs along the Coronado beaches, paws digging into wet sand as waves lapped at the shore. The dog's energy was undimmed, a mirror to Marcus's own resolve, forged in the quiet hours of post-tribunal debriefs, where words like precedent and integration echoed from Vasquez's office. The reform began subtly, like the first cracks in sun-baked earth. Norfolk's K-9 liaison, Major Ellis, not the prosecutor, but her counterpart from the training command, returned for a series of workshops. His sessions drawing handlers from across SEAL Team 3 and adjacent units. The conference room overlooked the grinder, where platoons double-timed under instructors' barks, the air thick with the scent of sweat and sea spray filtering through open windows. Marcus facilitated one module demonstrating Rex's urban trail work on a simulated grid of shipping containers and debris piles. Scent cones dilute in heat, he explained, voice level as Rex quartered the mock site, pausing at a planted article, a child's toy buried under gravel. But loyalty doesn't. The dog commits. The handler adapts. Ellis nodded, his notebook filling with annotations. Your case studies in the pilot proposal, hybrid protocols for off-base SAR. JAG's greenlit a trial. Formal attachments for handlers in civilian crises with real-time command oversight. The words carried the weight of institutional shift, born from the tribunal's deliberations. Petitions from the teams had stacked up. Endorsements from retired operators flooding the CO's inbox, each citing the gas station recovery as proof of untapped potential. No fanfare, just the machinery turning. Memos circulated, budgets reallocated for joint drills with local PD, where Rex and other K-9s ran parallel with civilian units, leashes sinking in the dust. Vasquez pulled Marcus aside after the workshop, her office door clicking shut against the corridor's hum. The CO's signing off on your rotation reinstatement. Next Gulf deployment. Full status. She slid a revised eval across the desk. The ink fresh on the commendation addendum. Exemplary initiative, catalyst for policy evolution. You didn't just save the kid, Hale. You reminded us why we train dogs like Rex, to pierce what the system can't always see. Her salute was brief, a nod to the bond that bridged ranks, her eyes reflecting the quiet pride of command, tested and tempered. Word spread through the chow hall like morning formation calls, handlers clustering over trays of MRE-style rations, voices low but charged. Petty Officer Lang clapped Marcus on the shoulder during a shift change, his own Malinois waiting outside. Tribunal cleared the air, Norfolk's talking expansion, K-9 liaisons embedded with border task forces. No elaboration needed. In their world, reform was measured in expanded toolkits, not speeches. Trainees sought Marcus out during evals, questions sharp. How'd you read the stand-down, sir? When's conscience over protocol? He answered with restraint, drawing from the creed. Duty evolves. Weigh the trail, then the orders. The public echo lingered softer now. Media heat cooled to occasional features. a documentary snippet on PBS, framing the recovery as a model for interagency trust. Ethan's mother interviewed in silhouette, her voice steady. That dog smelled what fear hid. The handler followed. No names spotlighted without clearance, but the narrative shifted from rogue defiance to disciplined innovation. JAG's press release underscoring coordinated valor. Marcus avoided the spotlight, his statement archived in the unit's secure files, a footnote in the broader arc. Rex sensed the change in the air, his alerts sharper during joint drills with Ruiz's PD team at a neutral site off base, a stretch of coastal scrub mimicking the rail yard sprawl. The detective arrived in an unmarked cruiser, coffee thermos in hand, his grin cracking the professional facade. "Your boy's a legend now." Kid Ethan asks about the brave dog in therapy sessions. Mum sends updates. "He's toddling fine, no shadows." They ran the exercise clean, Rex hitting the planted trail in under 10 mics, the hybrid team bracketing with drones and thermal. Ruiz shook Marcus's hand at debrief, the grip firm. "This protocol? It's because of you. Sieve Mill Bridge, no more silos." Back at base, the legacy took root in mentorship. Marcus volunteered for the puppy program, guiding green handlers through Lackland basics adapted for SEAL specs. Bonding drills in the kennels, where fluorescent lights hummed over wire runs, the air rich with the earthy scent of wet fur after hose downs. A young petty officer, fresh from Bud-S, shadowed him one dawn, leash in hand as his charge, a sleek Malinois pup, nosed the obstacle course. "Sir, the gas station up. Did it cost you?" The question hung, earnest under the rising sun. Marcus paused, boot on a log, Rex sitting alert nearby. Cost and gain balance. The system learns from the stand, expands without breaking. The pup alerted on cue, tail wagging, and the trainee's face lit with understanding, the cycle renewing. Vasquez observed from the sidelines, her nod a silent endorsement, the chain of command stretching to include these quiet transmissions. By deployment eve, the reforms solidified. SOCOM Directive 47B, authorizing K9 handlers for provisional civilian assists under EXO clearance, with after-action logs mandatory. Marcus packed his sea bag in the handler's quarters, gear laid out with ritual precision. Harness, meds, Rex's travel crate stowed in the corner. The dog pressed against his leg, sensing the shift, his warmth a constant amid the packing rustle. Whispers from the ready room promised more. Cross-training with FBI units, sense tracked across borders. The Toddler's case a classified case study in evals. As the team boarded the helo at dusk, rotors thumping to life over the tarmac, Marcus scratched Rex's ears one last time before secure. The Pacific faded below, a silver thread under the moon, the base's lights receding like embers. The defiance of that morning at the gas station had rippled outward, transforming not just one handler, but the institution's core, honor etched in policy, loyalty validated beyond the wire. Marcus became a symbol, unspoken, the man who followed a dog's nose to truth, proving conscience could bend the rigid without shattering it. In the quiet hum of the cabin, Rex settled at his feet, eyes closing to the vibration. The legacy endured, a steady pulse in the ranks, discipline refined by moral strength, the chain unbreakable yet ever adapting. Subscribe for more stories of loyalty, courage, and justice within the ranks. Thank you for watching the case of a toddler vanished at the gas station, the SEAL's K9. Detected a scent no machine could track. See you in the next one.